Hey guys, it's a beautiful but windy day here in Liverpool, so I don't even know if you can hear me, but I just want to talk a little bit about a few individuals last night and why individual performances are just as key to a system and what Arne Slot is setting up in as everything else. And it's kind of hard to know where to start because there were so many great individual performances, but there's specifically one guy who I think has just been so consistent for us this season. He's sacrificed, he's put in effort, he's done the running, he's been technically brilliant, and I think that shows why he doesn't always need to do all of the running. And he's also embodied a lot of the things that I want a Liverpool player to embody, not only in this era, but also obviously in the previous eras of Liverpool as well. And that's Dominic Solier. When we signed a lot of new players, I think the excitement was around what they would add. But I think a real thing we focused on this channel was what they could possibly unlock from other players. And no one expected that Dominic Solier was going to take step up after step up after step up into this level. We all knew he was a very good player. We all knew he was technically proficient. I'm going to take this off. We all knew that he was technically proficient. We all knew he was someone who was very influential in midfield. He had a lot of the power. He had a lot of the poise to be one of the great midfielders in Europe. And I don't know if anyone really expected him to make it to I think Dom is currently one of the best midfielders in Europe. Some people are probably going to go against that, but he's consistently getting extremely high ratings from everyone who's watching him. He's consistently the most influential player in the game. And he did the most running last night with Florian Wirtz. And I think that's kind of the point. It's not actually about the running. It's about where he then ends up after he's done the running. He's not the only player I'm going to talk about in this video. Don't worry, it's not a 10-minute video on Florian Wirtz and how he's been influenced by Szoboszlai and Szoboszlai vice versa. But those two, for me, there is something really special there. There is a midfield, which I think we're crafting right now, which I think was let down by a defence that wasn't offering them much structure, which is why we've brought back in Robbo, and an attack which really looked quite lacklustre after Szoboszlai or Wirtz, or to be honest, just Szoboszlai had handed off that ball. And it's very easy in systems to get swept up into, oh, Slot hasn't set these guys up correctly, this individual's crap, or this guy's not going to fit in. We were barely 10 games in. I was going on so many other shows and people were going, give me your judgment on this guy. Give me your call. Is this guy going to be the guy that we can rely on? Is he going to be good? Is he going to be bad? And it was really weird to hear people's early opinions on players who'd A, barely played, B, weren't really up to fitness, and C, weren't ever really gonna make the change in this system until we'd started to work out what the new shape was. And I think Liverpool had a plan. I think we had a blueprint as to what we wanted to change. And I think initially Arne Slot was probably instructed to move away from some of the shapes that we had last season and more towards this adaptable back four into a three, which pushed someone else into midfield. And if we got Mark Gay, we would have done, worked out how to press the opposition from adding one more into midfield and having another body in there. And as we didn't get him, I think we had to work out backwards. We didn't have another centre-back that could push up. We didn't have another defender that could put the pressure on whoever the opposition was. And so we needed to add an extra body into that midfield. And Szoboszlai has acted like two guys, right? But what he's also done and what he's been great at for a very long time, not only because he's played with a lot of Liverpool players who are very adaptable, but also some players who really love, they kind of have their little idiosyncrasies and a lot of their habits. He's become a very, what I call, empathetic or sympathetic player. And that isn't only from him. McAllister is very similar. Gravenberch is very good at watching other people play. Curtis Jones is a player who, when he's on it, really looks at the way that the team is moving and tries to move with them. And that's why these guys are in the side. That's why they consistently start for us. But when Florian Wirtz came into the team, I think that was such a shift to Liverpool because, obviously we've been used to the movement of Luis Diaz and the rotation with Cody Gakpo on the left and Diaz going out on the left and then dropping deep as a false nine and all these kind of things. But I don't think that we'd ever really considered that the difference in structure that Florian Wirtz would kind of give Liverpool would be quite a challenge for the rest of the midfield. And the reason it would be a challenge was because he was given the license to drift. And the drifting that he did last night was, first of all, very compelling, very exciting. but also it put Liverpool in a position where we had someone who was always available on the left, but not in the Cody Gakpo shape. And Gakpo's great. I think Gakpo will become more of like a left-sided striker for Liverpool, or a width holder. Well, it kind of already is, but you get what I'm saying. He'll lean more into that in the future. And Wirtz will become this kind of floating 10 that gets the permission to go to the left, to the right, bring Salah inside. You saw the great chance that we created when Szoboszlai was through on goal and he put it straight at Courtois. Courtois made a really good save, but he put it straight at Courtois. Probably could have finished a little bit better, but it was quite a limited option. Anyway, not really the point. You saw the shape that he created. You saw the complete collapse of Madrid's back line when we did that. And that worked really, really well for us, right? So in those specific positions, we look great. When we're looking at Real Madrid, I think it was so specific last night that we can't say that this is a system shift that is going to work against everyone. Madrid, as a lot of people have been very quick to remind me when I've been praising Liverpool for the performance last night, run hot and cold. There are games where you can limit them and they're very poor. There are games where they maximize themselves, like against Barca, where they look great. But I think Liverpool did a lot of the limiting last night. We kept Mbappe quiet. We didn't give him any opportunities to run in behind. We kept Vinny very quiet because Conor Bradley was absolutely fantastic on him. We also kept Jude relatively quiet. I know we had a couple of times where he sort of walked into the box, but really we kept him pretty quiet out wide and limited his opportunities to even get through to the goal. So, and that really cut off a lot of their creativity. Other sides have come on and they've done their own little tricks against Liverpool. I think there are kind of set plays now that we are going to get used to in football. I think we've borrowed a lot from American football. But I think the key for me was building the confidence of Dom and Wirtz as a combination. The kind of elite NBA teams, the elite NFL teams all make combinations. Elite football teams make combinations. And the combinations that Liverpool have been running for quite some time now have been taken apart by the fact that we've been making new systems. Salah, Trent, we needed a new combination on that side. Robbo, Gakpo, Robbo, Mane, Robbo, Diaz, Robbo, whoever you want to say ahead of him, taken apart. That was taken apart last season. In the midfield, we kind of took our midfield apart a little bit, and we did is put it back in and then add Wirtz into that combination. And again, the complementary play of McAllister and Szoboszlai was incredible last night. It worked really, really well. And a lot of people are going to say, well, it's all about the running, or it's all about the legs. We outran Madrid. Madrid also had some really good runners last night. Madrid put a lot of effort into that game and didn't get a lot out of it, mainly because I think Slot had Alonso's number and cancelled him out. We'd also clearly observed the Atletico game. We'd also clearly observed there were a few other games in La Liga that I kind of watched beforehand, the highlights, and you could see where Madrid were particularly limited, should we say. And Liverpool did a lot of what Atletico did. We didn't allow them the space in behind, which Barcelona allowed Real Madrid. And these things they're gonna have a domino effect. Confidence isn't a binary. It feels binary, but confidence isn't always a binary thing, especially strong confidence. It's something you build up over time. It's something that kind of goes. I get the graph goes where I want, but it kind of goes up in incremental amounts. And if it goes up like that, it's often very likely to collapse on the other side in the same way. And from the outside, I think it's very difficult for us to work out what the confidence of the team is. But being at Anfield last night, you could see that there was a confidence and a flow to the side. There were passing combinations that we'd been looking for before, which maybe we were allowed by Madrid, and that is a big part of this, that we were finding. Wirtz's floating was working, and maybe he won't be afforded that same space in the Premier League, but let's try and find out how we can afford him some space, make him some space, give him the time to be able to operate in the way that he needs to. And this is kind of my final point. We're not going to be the same in every game. There will be games where Cody Gakpo starts out on the left for Liverpool. There will be games where Ekitike starts. There will be games where Isak starts. There will be games where probably the two of those guys start and we have a completely different shape. But the principles will remain the same. And I thought the principles of what Liverpool did last night were fantastic. We won't be able to keep up an intense pressing. There was a press to Liverpool last night, but we did really win the game back more in a sort of we kind of waited for Madrid to come to us. It was more like a mid-block, really, which worked really well. But we'll play in different ways, and that is Arne Slot's style. And I think what's really key for me, especially when I'm looking at the difference between Slot and Klopp. Klopp always made tactical adjustments, and I think they worked. Slot I'm not saying he's more of a finesse or whatever, but I think Slot has these much more game to game notes, these much more game to game ideas, which the players really have to fit into, and that's something that I think we're going to lean into more this season, because it's where football is kind of going, which is why I think we like Arne Slot, and B, I think it's as we see the players get used to these ideas and these concepts, it's going to get better. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I will chat to you in a little while. Patreon, membership, Discord. I'll see you in a little while. Much love. Bye.